Good morning, Macon. Welcome to our mayoral forum, which the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce is pleased to host for our community today in the tradition of past Good Morning Macon events that showcase top governmental leaders annually. I want to thank this year's presenting sponsor, Spivey, Pope, Green, and Greer. Now please welcome George Greer for sponsor remarks.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, Macon. It's our pleasure and privilege to sponsor the Good Morning Macon series as we've done for several years. I hope everyone has been able to stay safe and continue working as we try and get through this pandemic. I want to congratulate each of the candidates and wish them the best of luck in the forum. We appreciate your desire to serve our community, and Julia, we appreciate y'all's leadership at the Chamber. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Today's guest moderator is 13 WMAZ News anchor Frank Malloy. Our panelists are the qualified candidates for the office of Macon Bibb Mayor. The Governmental Affairs Committee of the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce solicited business questions from our members and selected the most relevant ones for today's forum. The order of response was determined through a random drawing prior to the event. Frank, I will turn the program over to you now.
Julie, thanks very much. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to this mayoral forum. We're glad to have you along, whether you're watching our live stream on 13wmaz.com or whether you'll be tuning in later. We feel like this is very important. Obviously, this is an important election coming up. We all know the times we are in. We all know the challenges that our new mayor will face. And we feel this provides a great opportunity to hear from our mayoral candidates, particularly as it determines the economy and also as it pertains to business and things that are going on right now. We also want to thank the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce for putting this forum together. We want to thank our sponsors, Spivey, Pope, Green, and Greer. We appreciate their input. And of course, most of all, we appreciate our 5 mayoral candidates, not only for their willingness to be here this morning, but for their willingness to put their time, effort, and money into their campaigns, and for their willingness to serve Macon and Bibb County during these challenging times. Our 5 candidates in alphabetical order are Lester Miller, Rabbi Larry Schlesinger, Blake Sullivan, Clifford Whitby, and Mark Whitfield. Again, gentlemen, thanks for being here. As Julie said, there was a random drawing conducted earlier this week to determine order of candidates. Now, the format is simple. This is a forum, not a debate. There will not be any rebuttals. Each candidate will get the opportunity to answer every question. 90-second time limit. You don't need to use all 90 seconds, but you do have 90 seconds to respond to the questions, and also that pertains to our opening and closing statements. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The random drawing was held on Tuesday, and the man picking number 1 or drawn first out of the hat was Mr. Mark Whitfield. So Mr. Whitfield, you have the forum, you have the floor for opening statements, 90 seconds. Good morning and welcome. I'm not hearing him. Is anyone else hearing him?
Muted. There you go. Try that. Is it now?
Mark, you want to give us an audio check?
Testing.
All right. Are we good now? All right. You're good now. We can hear you now, Mark. So you can go ahead and just restart if you would, please.
Good morning. My name is Mark Whitfield, mayoral candidate for Macon Bibb 2020. I'm the most qualified to be your next mayor. I spent 35 years, my entire career, in banking, finance, investments, and business consulting. As a banker, I witnessed what the devastation with lack of education, lack of opportunity, lack of employment. And this is a problem in Macon. We just had our 25th murder. And again, it's something that is something that we can stop. We need to have the proper programs in place. We need to have the proper budget in place to address these issues. Right now, it is unacceptable for Macon to be in the financial condition it is. The pandemic has only made it worse. So we have more people in lack than ever. We have highest unemployment ever. And we have businesses facing insolvency. Some have already become insolvent. So we must have a plan in place going to office to fight against the curses of poverty, to address the challenges of our small businesses, to address the challenges of our young people by fighting crime, violence, especially gun violence. So I have those plans in place. I have a plan to generate revenue. I have a plan to market our city the most effective way as possible.
Mr. Whitfield, thank you very much.
That was in tourism. Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Next, from the opening statements, Blake Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, 90 seconds, please, and welcome.
Good. Thank you, Frank. And I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this very important forum. I'm a man of action. As a businessman and entrepreneur, that's what I do. And during this tough time of pandemic, our local businesses have been hammered because they haven't been able to open up and do business like they should have. That's why I got together to start the Macon 30-Day Fund. Not because I'm a candidate for mayor, but because this is what I do. And because of that, we've helped over 61 small businesses as of today. And we've given out over $119,000 worth of forgivable loans so that they can stay and make and build. The worst thing in the world we can do is to lose any more. And I'm committed to helping small business, large business, and all businesses stay healthy and viable and make and build. As I said, I'm a man of action. That's why when our school district was facing hurdles trying to get our education system improved, I stepped up to raise almost $2.8 million to put the leader in me in every one of our Make and Build public schools so that we could teach our children leadership skills so that they could be ready to go in their career and they'll have the soft skills that they need to be successful in life. I look forward to today's questions, and I look forward to being your next mayor of Make and Build. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in opening statements, Clifford Whitby. Mr. Whitby, welcome. You have 90 seconds.
As we look at the state of things today, everyone is asking, what will tomorrow look like? And when will we get back to some sense of our pre-coronavirus lives? Indeed, the world has changed, and we must also. Our remote and recent history unfortunately shows that we've often been amongst the slowest to change. Unlike the past, we must choose to embrace these new challenges and find creative ways to move forward together. We must capitalize on technology and invest in our present and upcoming workforce. We must refocus our personal, corporate, and governmental goals to reset our thinking about who we are and how we can achieve success together. This means we must reject outdated strategies that marginalize, ignore, and seek to remove subsets of our community through policing and mass incarceration. As we must also reject those strategies that do not adequately address our substandard educational system. We must be intentional about making the changes necessary to succeed. Make and Build, I have a plan, and I look forward to this discussion, and I look forward to serving you as your next mayor.
Mr. Whitby, thanks very much. Next for opening statements, Rabbi Larry Schlesinger. Rabbi Schlesinger, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Frank, and thanks to the Chamber. Well, I am Rabbi Larry Schlesinger, and along with my amazing wife, Gary, we are the parents of 2 grown daughters. I spent my entire professional life as a member of the clergy, most recently here at Temple Beth Israel, and now I am honored to be our candidate for mayor. No one else in this race has the relationships that I do throughout this community that are necessary to build the bridges among us that we so desperately need. I'm a proven pro-business, fiscal conservative. I'll always maintain a balanced budget, and I'm proud of my 100% record of fully funding local law enforcement. I'm passionate about fighting blight, improving income inequality, and delivering vital services to our most vulnerable populations. Now, a lot has changed since Mayor Rickert delivered his uplifting State of the Community address in February. And he confirmed this week that, like many businesses, Macon-Bibb County is now facing a serious unforeseen COVID-19 revenue shortfall. So keep in mind that when the Great Recession hit in 2008 and revenues similarly plummeted, I am the one who was serving in local government then, and that the lessons that I retained from effectively addressing that financial fiasco will now benefit us all. So I'm asking for your vote for me, Rabbi Larry Schlesinger, as our next mayor of Macon-Bibb County.
Thank you, and we'll wrap up opening statements with Lester Miller. Mr. Miller, welcome.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Lester Miller, and I want to be your mayor. Many of you know me as a local attorney. Others know me as a school board member, serving 3 years as your president. But what you may not know is I'm also a successful businessman of 30 years. I presently own 9 small businesses, including 3 right here in Macon. My law practice, my beauty salon, and my real estate investment company. I also have 6 sport training facilities right here in Middle Georgia. I know the struggles that our small business is facing, particularly with this COVID crisis. Now today, I know we'll talk about job creation, business recruitment, and many will seek to take credit for the work of others. But the truth of the matter is our educators, our teachers, our stakeholders, there's all the credit for turning the school system around. You see, a company doesn't choose to come to Macon if you don't have an educated, talented, and qualified workforce. As mayor, I won't seek to take credit for the work of others. I will work with the entire business community and its stakeholders. I will not pat myself on the back for the work of others. As mayor, I will roll up my sleeves and get to work. I will make Macon the #1 place in Georgia to do business. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, candidates. Thank you. Those are our opening statements. We will now have our question and answer segment. There will be 8 questions, and then we'll finish with closing statements. All right, I'll read the question as slowly as possible because I know y'all are going to kind of go with this. But our first question, and Mr. Sullivan, you will have first crack at this. Within the past 20 years, businesses have fled and left abandoned buildings around the Pionona Avenue and Eisenhower Parkway area, and crime has increased in surrounding neighborhoods. What is your strategy for redeveloping and renovating those vacant properties as opposed to perhaps putting up new buildings in other parts of the county? Mr. Sullivan, again, 90 seconds. You're on.
Good. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, that's a big problem. It was a failure of our government planning because what we effectively did was we moved all of our retail businesses to North Macon. And now those same businesses are relocating down in Houston County. And so instead of being the sole source of business for our community, now we're splitting that revenue pie up, whatever it looks like, with other counties. That left a big hole in the Eisenhower Parkway area down there, and we've definitely got to address it. I talked to the mall owner over in Savannah. He's willing to do whatever he can. What I want to do is work to stabilize the neighborhood by tearing down over 2,200 houses of blight. When we do that, we'll reduce the crime. When we do that, we'll be able to go in and use other purposes for that Macon Mall, and we'll be able to do things that we can't do right now because we don't have the vision, we don't have the safety, and we don't have the plans to do that.
Mr. Sullivan, thanks very much. Mr. Whitby, your turn with the question again about the abandoned buildings in Pionona Avenue and Eisenhower Parkway.
There's no candidate on this platform today that have the record that I have. I revitalized buildings. I took an old abandoned building on Anthony Road that the Board of Education raffled off for $250,000. Today it's worth over $20 million. And the economic impact to Unionville and Tyndall Heights and the Macon-Bibb is legendary. I did that with a team of people that we assembled around us. When you talk about blight, whether it's residential or commercial, it's only one candidate here that has actually done the work, that actually understand what it takes, that actually have the passion and the drive. to revitalize our community for everybody. I'm proud of North Macon. I just want to make sure West Macon, South Macon, East Macon look the same, feel the same. Seniors can enjoy the community just as much as they do in those other areas of town. Not only did I do that on Anthony Road, but went right up the street on Pinona and did the exact same thing with a building, Eugenia Hamilton, that the Board of Education sold for $1. Today, it houses a charter school and it's worth over $15 million. I understand its work, Frank.
Thank you very much. Rabbi Schlesinger, 90 seconds to answer the question, please.
Thank you, Frank. The first thing I think that we have to do, and this is both for residential and building, is to really enforce code enforcement itself. We should not allow any of these buildings to deteriorate. The owners of these buildings really need to keep them up to code. I mean, it's so much easier to get a tenant when the building that you're looking at is nice. And code enforcement is really the only way that we can do this. I think we have to acknowledge that the consumer patterns are changing, that people are buying in different ways here. I'm not exactly sure what the future of retail is really going to be with so much online shopping going on. But at the same time, I think that we need to really concentrate on attracting service-oriented businesses to Macon-Bibb County. We have to keep the neighborhoods safe. The last thing that a tenant wants to do is to come into a neighborhood that is unsafe. So we need to make sure that our sheriff's office is 100% funded. So there's not a simple answer to this. There's no silver bullet. There are just a lot of different factors that are going into it. And the Eisenhower Business Improvement District is addressing that really on behalf of the county as we speak.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your turn to answer the question, please.
Thank you, Frank. And I think I'm probably the only candidate this forum today who lives in that community. I buy my groceries at the Kroger right there at Presidential Parkway, and I do it every Sunday. I just had lunch yesterday at McAllister's Deli right there by the Kroger in Presidential Parkway. I own a beauty shop behind S&S Cafeteria right there in that same parkway. I travel those roads each and every day, and I know more than anyone the issues that we face in our community as well as that community there. See, there is no simple answers, but there are solutions. You need somebody that's going to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work and make the right changes to make this happen. That all begins with leadership. I've already met with the owners of the Macon Mall. I've already met with the owners of the Bloomfield Shopping Village. I've already met with the owners of Target, Presidential Parkway. I've already met with the hotels and the motels in that area. I attended that bid meeting. I know what they're doing there. I know our neighborhood. What I know, it all starts with public safety. Businesses are not going to come to an area if they're scared or they see things on the news every day. Mr. Whitfield mentioned the 25th murder today. That's not very attractive to a business. Just down the road in Houston Avenue is where that occurred. Too many senseless killings have happened. So it starts with public safety. Until we get our public safety fixed, we're not going to lay another brick because it begins and ends there. We must do that to have a sustainable employment in that area. It may not be commercial, may not be industrial, but it could be educational, it could be medical, it could be software. There are many jobs in that area that we could create. I look forward to doing that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we'll wrap up the first question with Mr. Whitfield. 90 seconds, please.
Thank you. This is a very concern of mine. It's about having a plan to address these issues. One thing that I would do immediately is trying to designate Macon-Bibb as an enterprise zone. If you have an enterprise zone, you have federal funding that you can apply for to address underdeveloped areas, areas stricken by poverty, lack of development, and it also gives new entrepreneurs an opportunity to open businesses in those areas. Now, crime is a part of the problem that deals with the blight. You have to address crime. And by addressing crime, you have to address the issue with youth. Youth are, right now, they have nothing to do, nowhere to go, and nothing to lose. And this contributes to those areas of being blind, because businesses do not want to be in those particular areas where there's high crime, unskilled workers, and no potential development. So we have to put plans in place, solutions in place. An enterprise zone and an opportunity zone are two methods that we can do to assist going against blight, and workforce development can help the skilled workers and bring employers into the area so we can have skilled workers employed with those employers.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll now go on to our second question. Mr. Whitby, you will answer this one first. What role, if any, do you believe the Chamber of Commerce should play in economic development, economic competitiveness, and advocating for new businesses in Central Georgia? What role, if any, do you believe the Chamber of Commerce should play in economic development, economic competitiveness, and advocating for new businesses in Central Georgia? And Mr. Whitby, you're up first, 90 seconds, please.
Thank you, Frank. Again, I have a long history of working collaboratively with the business community. The Chamber of Commerce is an entity that is designed to represent the business community. Unfortunately, sometimes we get stuck in models that are not effective. I think a Chamber of Commerce representing the business community is a vital vehicle to work collaboratively with our local government. But again, when we talk about Chamber of Commerce, businesses, et cetera, I've sat in the room with CEOs of companies seeking to come here for over a decade. I know what the criteria are. I've rode around with CEOs as they ride through our city after being here previously, before we ever knew they was here. We have to understand that Macon must change and get out of the silos that has rendered us stagnant without development and growth. We can do this collaboratively together. The Chamber of Commerce have a role, but it is the role of the leader, the top elected official, to set the tone to move this community forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Schlesinger, your turn now to answer the question about the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Frank. I think that if I was a person who was looking to set up a business in Macon, Georgia, my first stop would be the Chamber of Commerce. I really believe that the Chamber of Commerce plays an important role in terms of being that first point of contact with this community. I mean, we're all in this together. We all have the same vision. We all want to achieve the same goals. So I believe that we all have a function. I've been, working with the Industrial Authority, and of course they're dealing with the large, corporations that come here. But it's small business that really is the economic engine of this community. So therefore, I think that the Chamber should do everything that it possibly can to foster that. I would really like to see the Chamber, reach out to students who are coming up, future entrepreneurs, mentor them, give them ways in which they can get to know how it is to run a business and move this community forward. We're all in this together. We all have the same vision. We have to work together, and it serves no purpose if we're at odds with one another in any which way.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, you're up next. 90 seconds for your answer, please.
Sure. As the only member of this panel, candidates running for mayor, that serves on the board of directors, I can tell you not only should it, but it will under my administration serve an integral part. Unfortunately, during the last several years, the Chamber has been attacked from within. Local county commission doesn't support the Chamber that it should. The previous directors of the Industrial Authority did not protect the Chamber that it should. We have to make changes, and we have to realize that this chamber is the heartbeat of Macon, Georgia. Over 1,000 businesses here in Macon are members of that chamber. They're our communication. They should have a seat at each and every meeting that we have here. The Industrial Authority is the key economic arm. They should work hand in hand together. Under my administration, we will. We will join hands and we will walk together to make this a better place for our community. Because it all starts with jobs and the creation of jobs. It all starts with industries. We must take care of the people that we have here. These businesses we have here, they need the chamber to be with them. They need a workforce. The chamber can help with that. Under my administration, I will support the chamber as I've always done, as all my businesses have been members of those. And I will work together and make sure that we move this Macon forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitfield, you're up next with a question about the chamber's role and involvement.
The chamber's role is critical because they are important in marketing the city. Macon has a tremendous amount of culture, talent, parks, just so many things that people can enjoy here. And the chamber is one of the major mechanisms of marketing our city. They also play an important part of bringing jobs, bringing employers to our city. So working closely with workforce development and making sure that workforce development is up to par as it is for the state of Georgia. Working with businesses to make sure that they're staying solvent, that they have opportunities for different funding sources. So I think the chamber should be more involved in helping small business achieve success. And that is, again, through finding out what funds they qualify for, starting new entrepreneurs, and giving them avenues for success.
Thank you very much. We'll finish up this question with Mr. Sullivan, 90 seconds.
Good. Thank you, Frank. I'd just like to say this. One of the things that's been most disappointing for me is to watch all the different groups that are in their individual silos and not cooperating with each other. That sets us up for failure. I don't like that. I think it's a mistake for us to do that. I agree that organizations have their own expertise, but we need to share information and work together. Otherwise, we're going to run off in different tangents and Macon Bibb's going to suffer. As far as economic development goes, I agree the chamber is a single point of contact and they should be out there doing all they can to promote business in Macon Bibb, large, small, anytime kind of business, and help us understand as a cheerleader that business is important for our community. As far as development and competitiveness, I think working on workforce is one of their great strengths. They need to continue to do that, but we need to bring all our institutions together. We have the Industrial Authority in Newtown, Macon, and the Chamber of Commerce, and all these folks working on different things, and that's bad for us. I want to bring them under all under one umbrella and use that as a recipe for success so that we can drive all businesses in Macon Bibb. Thank you.
I thank you. We'll now go on to our third question. Rabbi Schlesinger, you will get a chance to answer this one first. Is there a problem with the workforce in our area, and what would you do to promote workforce development and talent retention in Macon-Bibb County? Is there a problem with the workforce in our area, and what would you do to promote workforce development and talent retention in Macon-Bibb? Rabbi Schlesinger, 90 seconds, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Frank. You know, we have a workforce, but I don't think that the workforce is as trained or as educated as it needs to be. And that all starts within the school system. Yes, we've made progress towards you know, that goal, but where our graduation rates still are not where they should be, our reading level rates are not where they could be. We need to make sure that when students graduate our public school programs, that they are ready and able to compete socially and function in any work environment that may be presented to them. That is really the key to success. I also believe in mentoring programs, and I think the Chamber, as I said before, could play a role in doing that and creating programs. One of the things that I want to do is I want to initially appoint an after-school and youth development council that's going to have neighborhood after-school activities and learning opportunities for our students for the 80% of the time that they spend outside of the classroom. I want to plug into the Georgia statewide afternoon network that's here. I think we can accomplish a lot in terms of workforce development that way.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, 90 seconds to answer the question about the workforce in our area and retaining good people.
Thank you, Frank. And I believe I happen to know a little about this, being on the Bibb County School Board for the last 8 years. I know many people love to take shots at the school system, but you can't argue with the facts. The fact of the matter is the graduation rate has increased from 49% to 79%. Reading on grade level has increased significantly. Our students are doing better. Are they where we want them to be? No. I don't think we can ever get to a point where we want them to be there unless 100% is graduating and 100% is getting jobs. What we have to do is we have to pull Bibb County together with the Bibb County school system. You have to work together. You have to have better relationships. What I want to do under my administration is to properly fund MEDC. I think the school system should kick in some money. I think the county should kick in some money so we can develop these children. You know, there was a song that says, I believe the children are our future, treat them well, and let them lead the way. That's the truth. You must provide good opportunities for these children. Workforce development is key. We want our children to get those jobs so we can lift us out of this poverty that we have. And the only way to do that is you can do after-school programs. Those after-school programs are not playing basketball or ping pong. Those after-school programs are getting people college and career ready to accept a job. We need more of these students working during the summers. I remember coming up, we worked all the time. They need to have some money, need to have some work ethic. They need to have a career path so they can get a job so we don't have these issues with crime. Those are some of the things that we can do to improve workforce development here in Macon, Bibb County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitfield, next up, please.
This is something dear to me. I wrote the workforce model 20 years ago for Macon Bibb. And there were two components that were very important. One, I wanted to make sure adults had a better opportunity to make money and earn money. So that would only happen with better job training and better skills. I wrote that. The second is that there was a youth component to it, and it was a youth council. And we made sure that those youth had summer jobs, they had job training. Anyone that had a 2.5 GPA, we made sure they had a laptop. So right now, it's not functioning the way that it should. I wrote that program out of the heart. And to see it where it is now, it hurts. Now, with respect to being job ready, they're not. When high school students graduate, most are not job ready or college ready. So workforce development is the key to helping them from the deficiency of when they graduate to being able to earn a decent living and a living wage earned. And right now, we know that based on the grade level, the lower your grade level is, the more likely you be incarcerated. So grade level and incarceration are tied together. So I want to, under my administration, have an agreement with the Board of Education that when a student falls behind on grade level, you will help that student become grade level.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. We appreciate it. Mr. Sullivan, your turn to answer the question about workforce development and talent retention.
Yes, sir. Workforce starts early, starts in our public schools or private schools. One thing for sure, it starts with leadership skills. If you don't have a reason to go to school or know why school is important to you, you certainly can't have a vision for what it can do for you. I believe the Leader in Me does that. It gives children the leadership skills they need to be successful in life and in their career. And it will go a long way to helping them in their workforce. In fact, the number one thing Geico and other businesses say they want are the soft skills. They want people to be able to look people in the eye, to talk to them, to shake their hand, to be able to converse with them. to empathy, and do all of those things that are necessary to be a successful employee. So I want to continue that. I want to also, for our adults, we ask them to go down to Central Georgia, Middle Georgia State, or we ask them to go to any of our other institutions. We need to bring some studying to them. We've already shown now that we can do distance learning in other places. We need to work on that to be able to teach people skills where they are, not ask them to come to our institutions. And then the last thing I'll say is I want to embrace regionalism. I want to make our airport down there a truly regional airport and invite Houston County and other municipalities to join us, because when we do that, what we'll do is create the kind of jobs that'll make people who graduate, who work here, want to stay here. And I'm committed to doing that.
Thank you. And we'll finish up this question on workforce development and talent retention with Mr. Whitby.
So, Macon Bibb, one of the things I've learned over the last few months is just how distressing it is for the average citizen of Macon Bibb. It's not taking shots at our school system. You need just go to the governor's educational list and see what Macon Bibb is positioned. I want to support, we will support our educators, our teachers, but burying our head in the sand, acting as though somehow the manipulation of numbers is improvement. We have a problem providing a quality workforce as we seek to attract industry in. Burying our head in the sand is not going to change that. You know, people talk about their records. It's real clear. If you can't have a child reading on grade level, if you can't have a student graduating reading on grade level that have the skills necessary to go out and compete in this new era, in these emerging markets, we're going to continue to struggle. We must be realistic about what the challenge is. We can educate our children. We can support our educators. And under a Whitby administration, we will do just that.
All right, thank you all very much. We now move on to question number 4. Mr. Miller, you will have this one first. How would you try and improve the quality of life in Macon-Bibb County? Would it be a new rec center, maybe more parks and museums in order to attract new businesses? And then how would you pay for that? Again, how would you try and improve the quality of life in Macon-Bibb, maybe through parks or rec centers in order to attract new businesses? And then how would you go about funding that? Mr. Miller, 90 seconds, please.
Yes, sir. One of the first things I believe when I think about quality of life and a person coming to Macon-Bibb County, of course, I think about public safety. I know we keep going back to that, but that's the truth. Public safety is a key aspect of quality of life. Also, you got to have a clean community. I love Macon with all my heart. What I will tell you is I'm very disappointed when I get off the exits and I see trash. I see abandoned stations, and I see filthiness, and it's embarrassing. When I go to Eisenhower Parkway in the new bid, it's clean because they made a focus of doing that. When I travel around to other places, I see a clean environment. I don't see that in Macon-Bibb County. So we got to be a cleaner society, and it starts with educating our children and our parents. It starts with enforcing the law. It starts with putting your priorities in those focuses. So those are two issues. We've got plenty of parks. We've got plenty of recreation centers. We'd have trouble funding both of those. I would like to consider going back to our music heritage. One of the things I've looked at for a long time is an amphitheater here in Macon-Bibb County. I think we can have a public-private partnership where we build an amphitheater that will challenge some place like Lakewood in Atlanta to bring business here, but also as a quality of life issue. We can have events, festivals, and music here and get back to what we do. Macon is a historical town for many reasons. We have to take advantage of that. So I think we have a great quality of life and we're bringing people here. We can do a much better job, but it starts with public safety. It starts with a clean community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitfield, 90 seconds to answer the question about quality of life in Macon-Bibb.
Quality of life in Macon-Bibb starts with job creation. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Without jobs, without a living wage, your quality of life is going to be awful. And that's what we had in the city for years. That's why the poverty is where it is. And we hear about the millions of dollars and the hundreds of millions of dollars of buildings and so forth. but the poverty around it hasn't changed. If that type of environmental success means economic success is going on, then the community should be a part of that success, and they're not. So crime is certainly a problem for us, so we need to have something for the children to do, somewhere to go. And Police Activity League is one thing that we can focus on. It helps youth to develop a relationship with law enforcement and have mentoring from law enforcement, so it helps relationship between law enforcement and community. Workforce development, again, we have to have an effective workforce development to give them the proper training and skill set to get a job that's, again, future technology, even manufacturing jobs, they're coming back. The issues we've had with China, we're gonna see the impact on that. The pandemic has changed the world forever. So we have an opportunity now to have manufacturing jobs come to Macon, and we'll have something new, and also expansion of the airport. That would create thousands of jobs and also create millions in revenue. It will help tourism and it will help us grow as a city.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sullivan, your turn to answer the question about improving the quality of life and then how would you fund these efforts?
Good. Thank you, Frank. So to me, it's about freedom and opportunity. That always is the one thing that leads to quality of life. I believe we have certain parts of our county that are in deep distress today. There's hopelessness there and other things, and we just can't ignore that. Remember, when a boat has a hole in it, it doesn't matter what side of the boat you're on. We've got to be able to address lack of transportation to some of our poor communities to be able to get to an entry-level job. Do you know we don't run a bus to Amazon? And we've exported hundreds of jobs over to different counties because we haven't been foresightful enough to be able to provide transportation for entry-level jobs. We've got to be able to work harder on providing opportunity in these neighborhoods. And that means reducing crime. It means tearing down blight. I'm committed to do that. But I want to tell you also that we have a vibrant community. If we'll just stop throwing bricks at ourselves. We have a wonderful downtown. We have wonderful natural resources, some of the best water in the state. We have great music, art, all the other things you could imagine in a community we have. We're a destination. We need to change that to be in a location so that people move here instead of just come here and visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitby, your turn to answer the question about quality of life in this area.
You know, I'm making Bill, let me say, I cannot be more pleased to have the number of young people that has joined our campaign and continue to join our campaign and our crusade. You know, all people want is an opportunity. Equity, balance, and fair play is the cornerstone of our campaign, this community efforts. If we level the playing field, if we provide opportunities for our young people, and that's not just age, that's people that's not a part of the process as well. Some of the most innovative thoughts and approach came to us just the other day from a 75-year-old young person that see how we can transition and move our community and provide opportunities. I work with Mayor Robert Rickard. I work with Chairman Sam Hart. The things we endeavored to do, we achieved them. The mayor ran on the 2nd Street corridor and downtown development. He was committed to it. He was intentional, and he did it. I'm running on leveling the playing field for all of Macon Bill. Together, we will change the quality of life in Macon Bill.
Thank you. We'll finish up this question on quality of life in Macon with Rabbi Schlesinger.
Thanks, Frank. I think we know what we need here in Macon County in order to attract, new families and new businesses. I mean, obviously, we want a safe community. Obviously, we want a public school system that offers quality education. Unfortunately, the perception out there is something different. Because we are going into a period of revenue shortfall, I don't think it's wise at all to think about building something because we're not going to be able to pay for it, at least in the near future. But I do think we can use the assets that we have. The Okmulgee National Mounds is a jewel, and it's so close to downtown, and it is on the border of East Macon. Amerson Park is wonderful. People, want to get out. I think we've got to make the city walkable, as we've been doing. We need to make it bikeable as well. I think many people have picked up a bicycle during this slowdown and pandemic in order to get around, and it's very nice. So there are a tremendous amount of things that we need to do. The one thing that we really need to do is recognize that we are all brothers and sisters, and we all need to take care of one another.
Thank you. We are now halfway through the question and answer portion of this forum. Again, these questions are from the Government Affairs Committee of the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce with input from chamber members. So we now move on to our next question. Mr. Whitfield, you will go first on this one. In this time of business closures, high unemployment, and overall uncertainty due to COVID-19, how would you try and balance the budget, and what strategies would you use to try and help the economy recover? In these uncertain times, how would you try and balance the budget, and what strategies would you use to try and help the economy recover? Mr. Whitfield, you're up first, 90 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you for that question. First, you have to generate revenue. Small businesses are the backbone of Macon Bibb. And I will do everything in my power to generate revenue to help stabilize our small businesses. One thing that we have to do, again, is create jobs, create opportunities for jobs. But you have to come up with ways to generate revenue that we're not doing right now. So I think that if we host sporting events, because sporting is a $100 million industry with youth sports, if we host youth sporting events year round, that will begin to generate revenue, and it will generate revenue for our small businesses, generate revenue for the budget. It will generate revenue to sponsor programs for our youth, and it will generate revenue to lower taxes for those who are being overburdened with taxes right now. When someone pays taxes, that's an investment in their community. And when they don't see a return on investment, they leave. And that's why we had so many people leave, because they saw no return on investment, and they were paying higher taxes and carrying a large burden. And what's around them? Blight, higher taxes, no development downtown to their satisfaction. And it's just unacceptable. So marketing our city is very important, and that's what I'll do.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, your turn to answer the question about balancing the budget and helping the economy recover.
Good, thank you. So we have plenty of revenue in Macon Bibb. We're one of the highest property tax municipalities around. Our problem is in our spending and in our priorities. I want to tell you that we have over a $241 million debt in our retirement and healthcare, retiree healthcare plans. It's unsustainable, and we've got to reform it. This year alone, we're paying over $25 million of our budget just to let those plans tread water. They do nothing to lower the debt. It's gone up over $2 million this year. It's gone up substantially over the last 6 years since we've had a consolidated government. We have got to address the systemic problems that we have to be able to reduce our debt so that we can afford to do other things. Right now, we can't afford to give our police officers and first responders a comparable salary because we don't have any money. And they're not willing to make the cuts necessary to do that. In fact, they're talking about giving a raise to everybody. And I guess they're going to pull the money out of there. I don't know. But we've got to get in there and streamline our budget. we have a problem with that. And the more we can do to work to streamline our budget will be better for our community, because it will allow them to quit paying such a high property tax and fees that our community charges. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitby, your turn to talk about balancing the budget and helping to get the economy going.
So part of the process that we're undertaking right now is helping our constituents understand who have the experience and the know-how and who's done this before. In 2009, I took over as the chairman of the Industrial Authority, operating on $250,000 annual appropriations from the consolidated government. Under my leadership with our board, we turned a $250,000 annual appropriations into a multi-million-dollar operations, generating new revenue for the Board of Education as well as the consolidated government. We implemented models that benefited this community. The Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority is the lead economic development arm of this community. And its responsibility is to do just what you're talking about. I've done that as the chairman of the Industrial Authority so well that every board member asked when an executive director was to be hired, that would I serve in that role as well? We've done that. We've done this. We turned a recession into a renaissance. Never in the history, 55-year history, have the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority received such growth. We'll do that again when I become mayor.
Thank you. Rabbi Schlesinger, your turn to answer the question about balancing the budget and getting the economy going.
Thank you, Frank. 2 years ago, when we were debating the fiscal 19-year budget, I opposed it. I was blamed for not wanting to fund libraries or mass transit or any of the things that we call outside agencies. But that wasn't my issue at all. My issue was that we had been presented with 3 balanced budgets, all of which turned out to be deficit budgets. And we had gone through our reserves. We started with 30 million and we were down to 5. So I dug my heels in, and lo and behold, in that budget year, we all of a sudden had a $10 million surplus. And we were well on the way to another $10 million surplus this year, but that COVID virus has kind of thrown a monkey wrench into it. We'll figure out exactly where we're going to be. The bottom line is that we as a county have to live within our means, in good times and in not so good times like we're experiencing right now. So the most important thing is to keep the budget balanced. The mayor has asked us to take $10 million out of our surplus, which is 40% of our $27.8 million surplus that we're expecting. And frankly, I don't think that's the way to go. We have to live within our means. I am going to oppose that, and that's going to be my reason for doing it. We don't raid the surplus.
Thank you very much. We'll finish up this question about balancing the budget and the economy with Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Frank. Let me answer your question in the reverse order. I can tell you what I'm not going to do. What I'm not going to do is some of my opponents have suggested is balancing the budget on the backs of our men and women and our first responders. Simply cannot do it. It's illegal. It's immoral. Something they worked 30 and 40 years ago to talk about their pensions every time we get into a budget crisis. They didn't create this crisis. Our government did. This government did. Let's talk about how do we get out of this mess. We have to tighten up our strings. We have to prioritize. When I talk about prioritize, I talk about public safety. I don't talk about doing a pay scale 3, 4, 5 years every year. You have to come up with the money to do it, and we have to make our priorities. You can't just throw money at it. Some people believe that you raise money, you throw money at a problem, and you forget about it. Another problem pops up, you give somebody some temporary money, and the problems go away. It doesn't happen like that. We need some long-term systemic changes. It starts with the Chamber of Commerce. Getting those people involved with our businesses can help us. We need a response team now, ready, willing, and able to go to work, and we simply don't have that. So let's make the cuts where we're supposed to do and not on the backbones of our employees. School system's going through the same cut. We lost $18 million from the state government. We said no taxes, no furloughs, because we value our employees. We work too hard to get where we're at. So we have to pull together, work together to make the priorities that we need to do to make this budget happen. That's what will happen under Miller administration.
Thank you. We now move on to our next question. Mr. Sullivan, you will answer this one first. One Macon 2.0 recently produced a comprehensive 5-year plan to address a variety of issues: education, jobs, neighborhood revitalization, community inclusion, and reducing poverty. The plan was recently shared with everyone's campaign. What will Macon Bibb's role be in this plan, and what support would you offer to move the plan forward? Again, we're talking about the One Macon 2.0 comprehensive 5-year plan dealing with education, jobs, poverty reduction. What would Macon Bibb's role be in the plan, and what support would you give to move it forward? Mr. Sullivan, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Frank. I could say I was proud to serve on that committee that came up with the 2.0 plan under the leadership of Judge Colvin and Mr. Thompson. It's a very comprehensive plan that does touch a lot of different things. But one thing that is throughout the plan is to take action. The role of government is to be supportive of our other organizations as they work hard to change Macon Bibb for the better. We need to be a cheerleader first and foremost. We don't have resources to pour money into things, but the one thing that we can do is to give them all of our support so that they can do whatever they need to do to be able to make our community a better place. We need to listen to what they talk about transportation and run buses so that we can get our workers out to jobs. We don't do that, and we need to listen to what they tell us, take action on it, and do what we can with the resources that we have. So I'm looking forward to its implementation. I'm looking forward to see how it changes Macon Bibb, just like the 1.0 plan has done.
Thank you. Mr. Whitby, your turn to answer the question about the 5-year plan and moving it forward.
Okay, so Macon Bibb. One Macon was started at a time when all the economic development entities in Macon had never met. As the chairman of the Industrial Authority, I convened a meeting of all the organizations and agencies that had never met before to see if we can get on one page. One Macon was born from just that. Myself, Catherine Dennis, and Robbo Hatcher served as the first tri-chairs that steward this work. I'm very supportive of any organization that's working to improve our community. But again, we can't bury our heads in the sand. Let's be clear. One Macon, the Chamber of Commerce, entities like that, they are supporters. Why? Because it serves the total community. A member of the Chamber of Commerce bring their own money by paying dues. Why? To facilitate growth so their businesses would do better. I'm supportive of the One Macon strategies. I would want to look further at how we merge some of these so that we're not duplicating work again. But I was a part of the initial formulation of the One Macon, and I know why One Macon was started. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Schlesinger, it's your turn to answer the question about the One Macon plan and moving this community forward.
Thank you, Frank. Well, we all have a vision, and what we need in order to make that vision our reality is a plan. And the One Macon plan, I mean, it's been years in development, and it's really quite comprehensive, and it's what we have, and it's the direction that we all need to go. The one thing that I don't want to see is that the One Macon plan, like others in the past, for whatever the reason is going to be, gets shelved and we don't act on it. The time has come to move forward. I know we're in a bit of a economic crisis right now, but it's time to move forward. And the other thing that I really want to make sure of, especially when we talk about One Macon, is that everybody's included. No matter whether you live in North Macon or off of Houston Avenue, One Macon should be comprehensive and embrace us all. So that's what I'm going to be looking for as I support it wholeheartedly as mayor of Macon-Bibb County.
Thank you. The One Macon plan. Mr. Miller, your turn to answer the question. 90 seconds, please.
Yes, the One Macon plan is a great plan. I have incorporated it into my platform running for mayor. But it's not a silver bullet. One thing you're gonna have to do is make sure you get input from all parts of the community. You know, people want to be cheerleaders, but you need people that are in the game. You need people who will roll up their sleeves and get to work, put things in action. What you need is a One Macon that includes South Macon, One Macon that includes North Macon, One Macon that includes East Macon, One Macon that includes West Macon. We have great relationships with great foundations here in Macon, great nonprofits in Macon, but they're all pulling in different directions. In my administration, I'm going to set up a community liaison. It's going to work to pull all those organizations together so we can pull in the right direction. United Way does a great job. Ford Foundation does a great job. Habitat for Humanity does a great job. You must pull all these organizations together so we quit living in silos and truly have organizations that are going to meet the needs. As mayor, I will pull those people together. I will convene those people all in one place so we can get to work and do what we need to do. Under my administration, we will work together. I've shown this when I got on the school board with a divided board. We pulled everybody together to get things accomplished that we need to accomplish. And I intend to do that as mayor. One Macon is a good start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll finish up this question with Mr. Whitfield, please.
Well, one thing I'm happy to hear and see is that leadership recognizes how all of these are tied together. We have to understand, and now that we have this plan in place, I think we're getting there, that workforce, education, community development, business opportunities, they're all connected. And now we're seeing, until this plan is implemented and executed, we're going to continue to see the blight in East Macon, the blight in South Bibb, the medical disparities we have from access to care. So what have I done? I've done what I can over the past 20 years to make a difference. First Choice Primary Care, I was with that group that started 15 years ago. Workforce Development, Police Activity League. These are things that I've tried to keep going, and they're instrumental in the success of these programs working together. Now, I think we need to bring in other partners like Mercer University. They are key to bridging our community together. And once we all began to truly, and I mean truly, put the community first, then I think we'll see the program successful.
Thank you. We now move on to our next question. Mr. Whitby, you will answer this one first. An OLOST, or additional penny sales tax, has been talked about as a way to raise money, roll back property taxes, and decrease the millage rate. Do you support the OLOST, and would you work with the local delegation to get it on the ballot for people to vote on? Mr. Whitby, you're first. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I do support the OLOST. I worked initially when we had discussions about the possibilities, the pros and the cons of the OLOST. I think it's still a lot of education that has to be done to the broader public to really understand the concept behind the OLOST. But I have to say this as well. The OLOST is just a tool to be used right now as we struggle and make some of these adjustments that must be made with the reality of the pandemic from the economic standpoint. The OLOST is going to take a good deal of educating of the community for the community to really buy in. I've heard candidates say that I'll never impose a tax hike without the public buy-in. I agree with that. if the community agree with the concept of the OLAs, I will be wholeheartedly behind it. I think it is a good option as we look at ways to balance our budgets and deal with the consolidation realities. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Schlesinger, the OLOS and your position on it, please.
Thank you, Frank. I have supported the OLOS within the Macon-Bibb County Commission every time that it has come up. It has advantages to property owners. It'll roll the millage rate back, I think, up to 7 mills. And 60% of it, they say, would be paid for people who live outside of Macon-Bibb County through hotel motel taxes and sales tax here. Unfortunately, within our local legislative delegation in Atlanta, there have been, feelings one way or the other about this. And we've just been unable to get them all on the same page. And it just hasn't gone anywhere. I believe that I can rather easily get everybody on the same page, move this forward to the benefit of the property owners here in Macon-Bibb County, as well as the coffers here to increase our revenue. So I'm all for it. I think I've got the relationships necessary to make it happen. And if you elect me mayor, I'll show you that that's true.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your turn to answer the question about the OLOS, please.
Thank you, Frank. The OLOS is very important to Macon-Bibb County, even though people consider it revenue neutral. You hear a lot about people who support the OLOS, but nobody can seem to get it on the ballot for the people to choose. I will be that candidate. The election is over on June the 9th. I fully intend on scheduling an appointment right after the budget is over to go discuss that with our local delegation. I reached out to each and every local delegation last year, and I intend to do the same thing. So you can't just want something to happen, you have to make it happen. And I'm the person to do that. When I talk to the legislators on both sides of the aisle, it's all partisanship. We have to be able to bring people together, Republicans and Democrats, to do what's right for Bibb County. One reason it hasn't passed is because people simply don't trust local government. I think that's why we know we haven't had the support. I think I bring that to the table. I think we need to give the taxpayers in Bibb County, particularly the property owners, some relief, especially during this COVID crisis. I think to do that, we're going to have to set aside partisan politics. We have to work together. There's none of this 50-50 worrying about where the money may go. 100% must be rolled back. Not only that, we can't backdoor the taxpayers by increasing the assessment on their properties to make up for revenue shortfalls. That will not happen under my administration. I think it's immoral, and I think it's illegal. Those are some of the things we have to address if you want to be truly a transparent government that's looking out for the good for people. So OLOS is on the agenda. It's very high on there. I plan to get started immediately after this election is over. Make sure we have it ready to go in January of next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitfield, your position on the OLOS, please. Mr. Whitfield, you need to unmute yourself, please.
I didn't touch anything.
There, okay, you're good now.
I didn't touch anything, so.
You're good, thank you.
Okay, all right. Because of the pandemic, I support the OLOS, but it gets old when leadership fails our taxpayers, and then we go to taxpayers to bail us out. It's always on the taxpayer. Leadership should come up with ways to generate revenue. That's through imagination and creativity. We have to do something other than burden the taxpayer again. So what do? We have an airport. We have federal funding available for us to expand the airport. We have some of the best culture, talent, and we should market our city. We're not doing that right. We're failing our small business owners because we market our city properly. The location we have for other business to be here, the tourism that we can attract. And again, it's not just basketball and football and the sports. It's a sports business model to bring sporting activities, tournaments here, year round. We have a model in Orlando, tens of millions of dollars a year is generated through sports, hosting events. We can do that here. That's one way to stabilize our small business owners. That's one way to create jobs. That's another place of revenue to help taxpayers have relief. So OLAS, for right now, yes, because of the pandemic. But we need to stop putting pressure on our taxpayers.
Thank you very much. We'll finish up the OLAS question with Mr. Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Frank. I am in favor of the OLAS with 100% of the proceeds going back to individual taxpayers. Where the problem has been in the past is that the commissioners have bended the ear of our local delegation up in Atlanta and said, oh, we want to take some of that money back and be able to fund our sheriff's department or do this, that, and the other with it. And it's always come down to how much, and unfortunately, they've wanted to take way too much. I'm in favor of anything that we can do to roll back taxes for our property taxpayers. I'm in favor of the OLAS. I have been very vocal that there will be no ad valorem increase without a referendum. And we've got to be able to live within our means. We haven't done that. We don't want to make the hard choices, and I'm committed to try to do that. It's important for us to live within our means, and OLAS will give us an opportunity, if we do it right, to be able to make some adjustments in our budgets and be able to cut some expenses.
All right, we're now at to our final question of today's forum. Rabbi Schlesinger, you will go first with this one. The Bibb Sheriff's Office is seriously understaffed, with officers often leaving for higher paying jobs in other counties. As mayor, what would you do to try and reduce crime in our community? Rabbi Schlesinger, 90 seconds, please.
Well, you know, I have a proven record of 100% funding the sheriff's office, which I'm very, very proud of. So, you know, it takes finances for the sheriff's office to operate. And the sheriff's office really receives the yeoman's share of the county budget each and every year. We need more boots on the ground. And in order to get more boots on the ground, we need to hire more recruits. We need to offer competitive salaries, if not better salaries than what might be out there that might attract them away. We need to attract the best and the brightest who are there to serve this community and make Macon Bibb County their home if they're coming from some other place. So we really need to, you know, I think have more of a relationship with officers. I would like to go back to the concept of the cop on the beat, where everybody in the neighborhood knows that officer. You develop a friendly relationship instead of an antagonistic relationship. I think there's a lot we can do, but we're going to have to offer better salaries to people who are really able.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your plan for reducing crime in our community.
Sure. There's no question that public safety is the #1 issue here in Macon. Your very own 13 WMAZ report showed that. You know, what we have to look at is from a holistic approach. The #1, you have to start with public safety as far as boots on the ground. Now, people want to talk about fully funding public safety. If we fully funded, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Officers wouldn't be worried about what pay scale they have. They wouldn't worry about their pensions being cut. So we have to put our money where our mouth is and our priorities where our heart is. And that is going to be in public safety. You know, I've come up with a way to pay for public safety on several different grounds. It's not very hard. #1, we've got deputies out there who are ready, willing, and able to come back to work. And they don't need the benefits because they already have the benefits and the pensions. We can bring 20, 30 deputies back that can work on patrol or work on other jobs or guard the courthouse, that work 20 hours a week without the full pensions, without the full benefits, to relieve our regular, everyday officers to be out there patrolling the streets. You know, many of you heard about the Justice Works program that I have. It's not imaginary. It's giving people second chances, but it's also punishment. It's also allowing people to pay for their own room and board. It's an alternative to prison. It's saving from $55 a day to $20 a day. Who could be against that? If you want public safety, that's a savings of over $2 million to pay for public safety alone. We put our money where our mouth is, put our budgets where our heart is. That's what I plan on doing for mayor, Macon-Bibb County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitfield, your plan for reducing crime in our area, please.
Well, first, I want to state that there are three professions that are underpaid and overworked. That's our educators, our firefighters, and law enforcement. And with our law enforcement, I believe in community policing. So under my administration, we'll have community policing. That is, the community and police officers have a relationship. And those officers who are hired, we do need 100 officers. We do need to make sure we're properly staffed. But the type of officer I want to hire is an officer who is community oriented, not someone who wants to be aggressive with the community, but wants a relationship with the community. Now, with respect to crime, grade level is the key to stopping crime. We have police activity league, that's fine. We have workforce, that's fine. But it starts in the education system with individuals staying on grade level, because you don't find any, well, I won't say any, you find very few prisoners who are reading on grade level and doing math on grade level. So to stop crime, let's deal with grade level. And under my administration, I would want to work with education and seek permission from the parents to get information from the Board of Education for any student who's falling behind on grade level, that we will assist that child after school programs with getting them back to grade level.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whitfield. Next, Mr. Sullivan, your answer is about reducing crime in our community, please.
Good. I think hiring officers is a part of it, but the root of it is we've got to stop crime before it occurs. Best way to do that is to help our children become educated so that work becomes the option, not crime, so that they don't drop out of school and do that. Remember, if we have less crime, we need less police officers. So it's important for us to focus on that. I'm committed to tearing down over 2,200 structures that were identified by our blight study, because study after study shows that when you reduce the blight, you reduce the crime. I want to get rid of some of our slumlords that are from out of state that operate with abandon here in Macon-Bibb. They are a conduit for criminals to come into our community. And finally, I'd like to say I do want to increase the salaries of our police officers, but it's important that we cut spending in order to do that, not raise taxes. Our sheriff today is not using the technology that's available to him. We need to be able to work smarter. One of my businesses in Americus, Georgia, we found out that a hot spot for crime was in a certain place at a certain time and a certain day. And I got the sheriff to park a police car out there then, and guess what? Crimes didn't get committed. So I believe we need to work smarter and use technology to do that.
All right, we'll finish up this question, our final question on public safety, with Mr. Whitby, please.
Okay, thanks. One of the things that this community expect is when an officer raises his hand and take an oath to serve and protect, it takes a special person to do that. I know many officers on our sheriff department. I know Sheriff David Davis well, and these fine officers do a fantastic job. But crime is the root of providing the level of community engagement that will go so much further. Some of these models that's been discussed, build more prisons, chain gangs almost, those have been rejected. We can't go back. We have to go forward. We have to find innovative ways. Why are the youth engaged in criminal activity? Why are young men who have lack of opportunity? Could it have a little something to do with we're not graduating children that read on grade level? that can further their education? Could it have a little bit to do with a focus of our educational system not being what it need to be? And this is not a slight to our educators. Again, they're some of the finest we have, but we can do better.
Thank you very much. All right, we're now going to finish up. That completes the question and answer phase. We will now finish up with our closing statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds, and we're going in reverse order of the opening statements. So we'll start our closing statements with Mr. Miller. 90 seconds, please.
Thank you. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this great event today, and it's been very useful to our community. We have to put our priorities straight. I want to talk about records. Let me tell you a little bit about my record. 2012, I ran for the school board. Superintendent at that time was Romaine Dolomine. Superintendent today is Dr. Curtis Jones. I don't need to say anything else. That's improvement. Graduation rate was hovering around 50%. Now it's almost 80%. Are we satisfied with that? No, but that's improvement. Back in 2009, the poverty rate was 30%. No matter what the Industrial Authority did all the way to 2017, the poverty rate is 36%. I'm proud to run on my record. My record shows that public safety is the #1 issue. It also shows that there's only 3 first responders organizations in Macon-Bibb County: the Fraternal Order of Police, Middle Georgia Firefighters Association, and the Police Benevolent Association of Middle Georgia. They all 3 have endorsed my campaign. We talked a lot about education today. Top educator in Bibb County, Dr. Curtis Jones, endorsed our campaign. These are the experts that are telling you that they've seen me work. They know what I can do. They know we can get the job done. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your support today, tomorrow, and especially on June the 9th. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much. Next up for closing statements, Rabbi Schlesinger.
Thank you, Frank, and thanks so much to the Chamber for gathering us together today. We learned yesterday the disturbing news that unemployment claims had reached an all-time high here in our state of Georgia, and that nationwide, over the past 2 months, nearly a quarter of our country's workforce has filed for unemployment benefits. Be that as it may, as I was tackling the difficulties of the Great Recession as a Macon City Councilman a decade ago, I understood then more than ever before that our Macon-Bibb community is gifted with tenacity. Tenacity to rise up in times of distress, tenacity to overcome any obstacle thrown in our way, tenacity to emerge better and stronger than ever before. We are Macon-Bibb County. We are Black and white, Latino and Indian, Asian and Muslim, LGBTQ and straight, young and old families and communities, all of whom contribute significantly to our local economy and the quality of life we enjoy. And it would be nothing short of the honor of a lifetime to serve each and every one of you as your next mayor. So this Memorial Day weekend, remember these hallowed words: united we stand, divided we fall. So cast your vote for Rabbi Larry Schlesinger as the next mayor of Macon-Bibb County.
Thank you very much. We now will continue with closing statements. Mr. Whitby, it's your turn, please.
This race isn't about any one of us as candidates. It's about you and your family. As you make this most important decision, consider who will enact fair policies that will bring equity and balance to our community so that you are not left out. Who will keep at the forefront each issue that has proven their commitment investing in our community, especially those most underserved. Who has demonstrated the passion? Who has demonstrated the passion to fight for our community and to help to bring out, who will help bring out us out of the last economic recession in 2008? Who has proven to be innovative, determined, and have the ability to create billions of dollars of economic growth, resulting in thousands of jobs in this area? And who has to say to you deserves someone who will be willing and be able to make the tough decisions, take on the issues, assemble the right team, and do what is right, even at the risk of personal attacks. Your future, your family, the future of Macon-Bibb County is worth fighting for. And I'm ready to do just that on day one. So vote Clifford Whitby for mayor, and let's start building a brighter future together. Thank you, Macon-Bibb.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sullivan, your chance with the closing remarks, 90 seconds, please.
Good. Thank you. I want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and Frank, to you especially for being the moderator today. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm a business owner and an entrepreneur. I'm not a politician. I know how to look at complex problems, how to find creative solutions, and then take action. That's all I've done all my life. I've been a leader. When times are tough, I've raised my hand. I've looked for opportunity to serve. And that's why I've decided to run for mayor of Macon-Bibb. That's why, too, I decided to raise the money to help Leader in Me, because I believed in the children of our community. And I believe so much in leadership that if we can give children the tools they need to succeed in life, that can't help but help us as a community. And then when this pandemic hit, I knew what we needed to do to help our small businesses. And I didn't just talk about it, I went and worked on it. I helped over 61. We've got another 150 of them out there that we need to help. And I'm working every day to try to raise enough money to do that. But I'm grateful that our small businesses and our large businesses are here because they make Macon-Bibb a successful business community and a place to come and live and work. As your next mayor, I promise that I will do all I can for all of our citizens, regardless of your race, regardless of your wealth, regardless of anything else.
Thank you very much.
The greatest cities in Georgia. Thank you.
And we'll finish up our closing statements with Mr. Whitfield.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. First, I want to say this is actually about the candidate. And don't be deceived. You must elect the mayor who is most qualified to lead the city. We have 4 candidates who want to be mayor, and we have 1 candidate who needs to be mayor, and that's me. Now, I'm concerned with some statements that I've heard. One candidate has attached himself to the Rickard administration, which has Macon in a dire situation. East Macon is awful, it's desolate. South Bibb is filled with crime, no development in any of those areas. So leadership would have recognized that an enterprise zone is something that Macon-Bibb needed, that opportunity zones is something that we should have gone after, which is investments from other investors. We should recognize that revenue is an important issue here. Without revenue, it's all a pipe dream. No one's going to come here with jobs, with the crime rate, with the lack of skilled workers, with the youth violence, the gun violence. Is not going to happen. So we have to expand the airport. We have to look for ways through tourism and a sports model that can create jobs. And I'm the one who can do that for you. I need your support. I need your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to thank everyone who tuned into our live stream today, who will tune into this and hear what the candidates have to say as we count down to the June 9th election. In particular, I want to thank Mr. Whitfield, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Whitby, Rabbi Schlesinger, and Mr. Miller for taking time not only to be with us today, but to campaign and your willingness to serve Macon and Bibb County. We appreciate that. I want to thank the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce for getting this forum together. I want to thank our friends at Spivey, Pope, Green, and Greer for sponsoring this event. Again, early voting is underway. Election day is June 9th. My pleasure right now to close this out by welcoming in the President and CEO of the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce, Yvonne Williams.
Thank you, Frank. It's been an excellent morning and certainly valuable for the entire benefit of Macon-Bibb County. I want to thank Spivey, Pope, Green, and Greer for this wonderful sponsorship. I want to also thank all of the candidates for your dedication to come forward and present your platform for running for this very important office in our community. The Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and 1,000 members have served this community for over 160 years in leadership for economic development and for community competitiveness. We plan to work hand in hand with our newly elected mayor to make our future even more successful as we go forward, especially in these unprecedented times. So I challenge all citizens to look at the calendar. The election day is coming up. The polls are open. You can go to early voting at Pinona and Eisenhower Parkway at the voter registration office. Make it your plans to do so and exercise your right to vote. We hope you all have a very happy and safe Memorial Weekend, utilizing your time to be very cautious in these times, but also enjoying our beautiful city and the recreational opportunities we offer. We thank everyone again for joining us today. This will be posted on our website and will be aired as part of a webinar series over the next few weeks. Please look at the Greater Macon Chamber's calendar for our upcoming town halls that will be coming up throughout the month of June. We welcome your participation. We're glad to serve you. Together, we're greater together.
All right, thank you, Yvonne, and thank you again for everyone for tuning